It's another Manly Monday, and this Manly Monday, we are talking about, do men need to catch up emotionally? And this ended up being a much bigger topic than I originally thought it was going to be when I decided to do it. And I decided to do this topic because four different guys last week brought it up. And I'm like, okay, this is coming up a lot independently. Apparently, because there's been a lot of Instagram and TikTok content about this by women. And so let's dig down into it. And before we even get into it, I want to say that I do think that this TikTok content by women is responding to a subsection of men that I do not think these are normal guys. I think these are uniquely immature, uniquely loud, uniquely mean, uniquely misogynist minority of men that for some godforsaken reason keep getting centered by society. And I think that it should be instead, hey, guys, if you're not these guys, good for you, right? Here are the ways that you are being emotionally mature or you are showing emotional skills, positives, right? As opposed to men need to catch up. So I think the whole framing of the issue is wrong, but let's face it, this is what the algorithm has caught on. So let's run with it. Let's do help support this channel and we'll dig in. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. If you'd like to sign up for a Leanna Care session yourself to work through some of this stuff, the link to the form is in the description box below. Fill it out. I'll be in touch with you. Okay. So there's a lot of components to the emotional race and the idea of catch up, right? And this metaphor is very women centric because it's, it's content recorded by women. So they're coming from their framing. So the first question I asked myself is, hi Mitna, do men need to catch up? Or does society need to slow down and set a different pace for men and everyone? And I think that latter thing, that society needs to change the pace, is more correct. And I'll explain why. Because with the current model that we're dealing with now, women, who, as I talked about last week, are trained by society and demanded by society to be other-oriented, are tired. We're exhausted from being other-oriented. And I say this as a professional listener, and I know the difference between listening to someone because they are a client and it's been, mutual consent. We've agreed to have this relationship. I'm happy to do that. That's fuel for me. I enjoy that work. That's very different than people who are demanding that I soothe them and I tell them everything's okay and I make it all better and I act as a refuge whether I want to or not because I'm a woman. Very different thing, right? I work with clients because I'm a peer counselor, not because I'm a woman. This other shit, that's different. And the big difference is that's my job. I'm choosing to do it. There's benefits all around. I'm getting paid, I'm getting something out of it. Whereas these fucking societal expectations, fuck those. And can we stop blaming all men for the societal expectations that women are participating in as well? Because what I realized I needed to do is stop responding to that dog whistle. Stop responding to the Galinda flop. Stop pulling the I'm sorry too. And yeah, it got me labeled a massive bitch. But I was so controlled by, being labeled a bitch is bad. But which is worse, being totally overextended because I was constantly, oh, I'll get that. Oh, I'll get that. Oh, it's okay. No, I'm not mad. No, it's okay. Pretending comments didn't hurt. Pretending being ignored and forgotten about again didn't hurt. No, being a bitch is better. I think that word needs to be removed from the English language because it stops women from being more self-oriented and stops men from being more other-oriented, because you'll get labeled a little bitch, right? Fuck it. I have choices. I own my choices, but that's self-oriented, right? The minute I do that, I'm less feminine. You're starting to see the problem here, because when you are asking men or demanding that men emotionally catch up, now men are going, okay, I have these set of social demands that I be self-oriented because I'm a man and that's what society demands of men. I have one set of that. Now you're telling me that I have to catch up on the complete opposite set of social expectations. This is a no-win situation. And that's correct. So I think understanding the self-oriented and the other-oriented perspective instead of emotional maturity is an important place to start here. Because again, once we do that, are men needing to catch up to the other-oriented emotional vocabulary that is considered pro-social? Or does the world have to pull back that other-oriented pace for everyone so the pace car is more in the middle between the pace for women and the pace for men? See what I mean? It's not a question of men catching up. It's a question of dropping back some, recognizing that if we want men to be somewhat more other-oriented, we also have to let women be more self-oriented. And that's very significant when we look at this centered group of emotionally immature men calling Naoe from Assassin's Creed Shadows ugly. First of all, boys, she's really fucking young in a lot of parts of that game. Check your Senran Kagura energy. Oh my god. Like, she's really young. What the hell? But, they didn't know that. They just looked at pictures compared to Eve from Stellar Blade. And the funny thing about that is the costume they picked for Eve from Stellar Blade, it's one of my least favorite costumes in the whole game because it looks sloppy and uncomfortable. As somebody who is, out to here and out to here, it's like, no, I would never wear that. That's horrible. It's riding up. It's not comfortable. Like, Jesus Christ, it's one of the worst outfits in the whole game. And they're using that as sexy. There are way sexier outfits in Stellar Blade. Her base outfit is way sexier in Stellar Blade. Those freaking, no woman with boobs like that wears the spaghetti strap crisscrossy shit for, anything more than bedroom stuff because you're only going to be wearing it for 10 minutes, right? Like, no, it's stupid. But there's a lack of experience, a lack of awareness of women shining through. Also, Jesus, you're comparing somebody who's supposed to be a literal fucking robot to a real life woman, girl, who starts the game getting her face bashed in by a spiked bat. Why are we making these guys the benchmark? We shouldn't be. Holy fuck, that is us being emotionally immature. But we're getting dog whistled, we're getting triggered by their bullshit because we're like, what if they're normal? What if more men think that way than what if and that is where our own emotional maturity needs to kick in and go, fuck that. It's unlikely. Go back to the data. No, these guys are anomalies. Stop centering them. Stop punishing all men because these motherfuckers go off like the seals of misogyny on fucking Twitter. Like, just, yeah. Stop giving them attention. For God's sakes. Right? That's our emotional maturity work. That we're offloading on guys who weren't participating in that shit. And we're telling them to be more emotional mature? That ain't fair. But that's the other oriented programming kicking in, right? She's ugly. I am ugly. I am doing something wrong. I am, as a woman, supposed to be physically appealing to make other people happy because other oriented. And that is a fast train to misery. It is. We have choices. You know, it's okay to piss people off sometimes. That is the work we have to do. That is the catching up to the self-oriented demands on men. Where the fucking ideal is Geralt of Rivia. Like, if you think about it, right? Geralt's actually kind of other-oriented. Because he's got this, you know, curse bond with Yennefer, and then Dandelion's always getting into trouble and he has to save his ass. Sorry, Jaskier. Always getting in trouble, he has to save his ass, and then Triss is being Triss, and, you know, Triss is very nice, but when it comes to Geralt, she's, like, kind of sad. And then there's Ciri and all that shit there, and he has all these, like, magical forces, meaning he's limited in his choices, and then he also has to fight monsters, and half the fucking time he doesn't get paid, because Dandelion's accidentally fomented some sort of rebellion again, and they gotta leave town in the middle of the night. Like, but he keeps it all in. It's all, well, I gotta find more work. Well, I gotta slay another monster. And everybody around him keeps fucking up. In the books, he's allowed to talk. The games took that away from him, right? And it's this lone guy with a sword. Lone guy with a sword in Elden Ring, right? Like, lone guy, just gotta keep going, gotta keep slogging, do it yourself, get good. That's not a reasonable standard either. And so if we're telling one side to just catch up to the other, we're missing the healthy middle and just going to the other stupid extreme. So how can we balance? Well, first of all, we need to recognize that this is a vocabulary and processing issue. There is no gender difference in recognizing other people's emotions. Men are no less good than women at recognizing what other people are feeling, correctly identifying that. Whether they can name it with the same degree of specificity as women, right? Whether it's, well, she seems sad, as opposed to, well, she seems unconsolable, or she seems heartbroken, or she seems devastated, right? You know, it's just the sad with a thesaurus, right? It's sadness with a wardrobe change. But that's really the difference, right? Now, are there some people, both men and women, who are thoroughly out of touch with their own feelings? Fuck yes, absolutely. But we talk a lot about men being out of touch now. We don't talk a lot about women being out of touch. And oh, there are plenty of women completely fucking out of touch with their own feelings because, again, other oriented. If you're so focused on people pleasing everybody around you, fuck no, you don't know what you're feeling yourself. You may think you know, but is it your feeling? Not necessarily, right? Are you listening to that feeling of exhaustion? Are you listening to that feeling of frustration? Are you listening to that feeling that you're putting out a lot but you're not giving back and you're feeling like depleted? No. It's this stupid fairy tale bullshit of, well, I'm going to give and then other people are going to give. The problem is when women are trained to give and expect to give back, and men are trained, well, nobody gives. You got to get it yourself. You give, and the man goes, thanks. And so that's where the lack of reciprocation comes in. I think that's a better way of understanding. Understanding the other-oriented versus self-oriented is a better way of doing it than men need to catch up. Because what women need to start doing is have your own hobbies. Go out and do your own thing. And if he gets pissed off and jealous, too bad for him. You know, oh, but it'll lead to problems. Well, yeah, but that may be exposing some actual emotional immaturity in your partner. You know, if one partner wants to play video games all weekend, cool. If the other partner can go out with their friends and that makes them happy too, right? You're both being self-oriented. It's balancing. And then the next weekend, well, then maybe you do something together and be other-oriented and be there for each other, and there's balance. That is actually what, you know, relationship experts say leads to better outcomes. When everybody has their own stuff and you're connecting. So yes, this is the point where, guys, if you want a relationship with a woman, and there is no requirement to be in a relationship. None. And women have figured that out, right? Now, do you want a relationship? All right, that's great. If the answer is yes there, well, yes, if you want a relationship with a woman, you have to become at least passingly fluent in how women talk about feelings as a rule that is different from how men do it, without rolling your eyes and going, here we go. And that, unfortunately, is how men have been trained by old school, older men to talk about things. I know I was raised with, every time I got upset, it's like, here we go. What's wrong? What did you do now? Right? And I was supposed to say, well, they paid you attention. You feel fortunate. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. Right? But empathy has to go both ways. It isn't gonna hurt. It will actually help some to develop your emotional vocabulary to the point that you can at least converse. You don't have to have a romance novel thesaurus for feelings. Just have a vocabulary beyond I'm pissed off and I'm frustrated. Because I talk to a lot of people in general, and I do notice that the top two from a lot of men are, I'm frustrated. Because frustrated isn't quite angry. Pissed off is the other one, isn't quite angry. The other thing is, I'm frustrated. Well, that's a beginning to complain about why you're frustrated. It's usually because this fucker, right? Like, it's on another person. Because talking about feelings feels vulnerable. Vulnerable is bad. This is uncomfortable. Get it away, deflect, and project. Emotional maturity moment. If you want to be an asshole, and I am aware that I am an asshole sometimes. I own that. Go for it, right? I do it performatively a lot in these videos because it's just like, let's have a bit of fun with something. But own it. You are being an asshole when instead of going, I'm feeling defeated, I am completely worn out, I just feel like I've been stomped on by life. Instead of saying that, you go, this fucking game, fucking Ubisoft, fucking woke. Like, that's even a little cooler than the way these guys but let's face it, who cares? Who cares about the game? It's not that big a deal. It is just something you can focus on so you don't have to sit with the feeling. And sitting with the feeling a little bit more, not only will it make, your results with women better, it will make your results with yourself better. You will actually be more rational and logical and all these things that seem to be more prized in men than women, because men are expected to be logical. Women are expected to be emotional. And so the problem with that is when I'm just arguing a point based on facts, I get accused of being angry. And it's like, from a guy who is being just as aggressive, but denies he's angry. And I'll be laughing and I'll be going, oh, come fucking on, man. Like, just, no, you're very angry. Like, I'm laughing. Projection and deflection. It is better if you're not that guy, because that's when we start creeping in to the Veilguard and Shadows haters, where these are not emotionally mature responses. And I would love to have emotionally mature discussions about both those franchises. Because, I mean, Assassin's Creed is just, it has to be something for everybody because it's such a monster franchise. And there's so many people from different portions of when they jumped on that game. And Assassin's Creed Shadows is trying to be, yes, to everyone. And so precisely the parts I like more are the parts that somebody who came on circa like Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla is going to like a lot less. I mean, hopefully they played Mirage and it softened them up, but I'd love to have these conversations. But we can't have a discussion about gameplay mechanics or, no, Assassin's Creed Shadows is not a Ghost of Tsushima copy. It isn't. It just isn't. Ghost of Tsushima was a Kurosawa film. Assassin's Creed Shadows is Assassin's Creed in like 16th century Japan. Not the same. One's a movie. One's actually based on history. And is there a lot of romanticized stuff from that part of history? Yes, but it's not the same thing. I'd love to have these conversations. They are being impeded by, it's woke, it's this, it's that. I'm sorry, if you played Nihon and had no problem with, what's his name, William Adams being used, who was a white samurai whose kids got kicked out of Japan for being mixed race the minute he died. If you don't have a problem with him being the protagonist of a game, back off Yasuke, because there's a historical record there too, right? The only reason they couldn't kick that guy's kids out of Japan sooner, when Japan closed off to all non-Japanese people and their mixed race children, was because he owned land. They couldn't do it. But white people couldn't leave their land to their descendants. So the minute he died, but if you were okay with that in Neo, chill. Just chill. You can have discussions about this stuff without descending into nonsense, you know, the anti-woke seals, like, don't. Be the rational actor you think you are instead of the emotional mess that you actually are. That is emotional maturity. Yes, it is. And I know that I am not talking to the majority of people watching this right now. I am that, you know, those are the edge cases. How do you know you're not that? Well, one, I hear from a lot of guys, well, I have issues with the game, but it's not those issues. Or I have issues with this, but it's not, you know, it's not because of this. Okay, then it's not you. And it's not fair that these guys drown out people with objections to certain things, you know. I think BioWare got kind of screwed in the whole Veilguard debate because we really should have been targeting everything on the fact that EA fucked that franchise around. And a lot of the reason it took so long to come out is they tried to force them to do the live service game and then went back to first player, to single player. And they shouldn't expect the game to make its money back because of that. EA should be owning that. And they should be owning the fact that they kept forcing BioWare to try to make types of games they're not good at making. They're good at solid single-player experiences. Let them do that, please. Thanks. Limit the budget if you only think it's going to make so much, but let them make what they're good at. That should have been what we targeted. That's not what we targeted. So, you know, if the next Mass Effect is a schizophrenic mess because of woke, well, right? And it's okay to be pissed off about that. I'm pissed off about that. It's disappointing, right? It's frustrating. But you notice I said disappointing as well because we can't have the conversations. And a lot of guys and, you know, articles I pulled, I'll put this one from centerformalepsychology.com on it about how, you know, talking about video games is one way guys express emotions. It's indirect, but it's processing. As one guy said, he did blacksmithing, you know. I learn a lot about where guys are coming from talking about video games with them. The place it breaks down is when one person has to be right instead of participating in a conversation. So if you're not hogging the mic, don't worry about it. If you're open to other points of view and you can go, I see where you're coming from on that, or tell me why you're coming at it from this direction. If you can do that, no problem. If you have to be right in something about video games that is highly subjective, then you got some work to do. Because when I hit the point with somebody where the gameplay's bad, it's bad gameplay. Well, why? Because it's bad. Everyone says it's bad. Okay, give me one example of gameplay that's bad. It's bad. You're wasting my time. Right? If you're not that, great. If you can talk about why, awesome. That's really interesting. But you gotta be aware of when you actually are having an emotional response and not try to pass it off as logic. It's not gonna work. It's better to say what a lot of the guys I talked to last week said about these Instagram videos. That, you know, these women said men have to catch up, and it made me feel bad. And look, they did that. And so I made a video about it talking about, yeah, I can understand why it makes you feel bad, because ironically, it's asking one group to do all the emotional labor to fix this problem, and that never works, right? So again, men can recognize emotions in other people. In themselves, individual mileage may vary. If you have trouble in a moment, it's good to check in and go, what am I feeling right now? Am I really feeling angry, or is that masking me feeling threatened or frightened or insecure? It's really important to get at the anger is an angry and what thing. Maybe you're just angry. Sometimes I'm just fucking angry. But a lot of the time I'm pissed off because, the amount of emotional control I require, because there's one of me, and God knows how many people in the comments going, yeah, that's frustrating. Yeah. What can I do about it? Not much. But acknowledging it helps process it, right? Sometimes you can process by just sort of doing an activity that helps you return to baseline without naming your feeling. But sometimes if you can't name the feeling and it is deeply traumatic and it is repetitive, if it feels like this ongoing narrative in your life, it is stuck, and you do have to unpack that and you do have to process it to feel better, or it's going to dog you. And save yourself some time. It took me 10 years. You can't necessarily logic a feeling. Logic is logic. Feelings are feelings. Sometimes you have to go, I feel this. It's not good. It's not bad. It just is. Then, why am I feeling this way? What can I do about it? Now, this goes for women as well, right? Because the other side of this is these women on Instagram and TikTok are saying men are doing something that's upsetting to us. And really, first of all, examine that, because I recognize, I, in the past, replicated a lot of stuff that women in my family did about being very other-oriented and then getting pissed off that it wasn't reciprocated. And so I'm just like, fuck it. I'm not cleaning up your mess. If there's an agreement that this is something I'm going to handle, okay. But if you just drop it there and expect me to pick it up, no, fuck you. Again, bitch. But you know what? If the guy wants it cleaned up, he ends up picking it up and cleaning it up, right? I own that. And that's the thing, is this men have to catch up, is taking zero responsibility for what the women in these videos are doing to contribute to this paradigm, right? It's like that fucking gift wrapping is patriarchy shit that The Guardian ran years ago. Like, if you don't want to wrap gifts, gift bags. Jesus Christ. This is not oppression, I happen to like wrapping gifts. But if I get stuck, yeah, it's a lot less fancy. I own my choices. Now, I ended up with multiple chronic diseases before I learned how to do this. I wish I'd done it sooner, but I didn't, right? But I do think that before ever you demand anything external accommodate you, really own what you are contributing to something, Okay, so if some woman believes that men as a rule are emotionally mature and need to do better, okay, well, how about rewarding? Oh, I shouldn't be a reward. No. Hear me out. When a man does something that is a step towards being more emotionally present, being more emotionally communicative, being more emotionally mature, acknowledge it. You don't have to be grateful in the, oh, let me suck your dick variety, because fuck that. That's just contributing to men processing all desire for connection as fucky. Okay, that's a problem too. And that's socially crafted. Because I know a lot of guys, they want companionship. And they're sheepish about communicating it, in part because women snort and go, yeah, right. Stop doing that. Right? But just go, yeah, I noticed you did that. And I appreciated that. That's it. That's all you have to do. It'll make the guy's day. Trust me. Women tend to give and receive more praise because it is seen as safer to praise women than men. And men give each other less praise than any other group. So men, you can change that too, right? But just because someone can't describe what they're feeling right away also does not mean they are emotionally immature. They may be overwhelmed, and it may be a complex emotion that they need a bit of time to figure out. Now, if this is you, and again, something I had to learn myself, take the time. Take the minute. Go, look, I'm just trying to put my words together. When I'm talking to people, so I'm not leaving them sitting, I'm going to try to explain something. I may completely fuck it up at first, so apologies in advance, right? But take the moment instead of coming out swinging because you're feeling vulnerable because you're overwhelmed. But give people that moment as well. And when someone is giving you the gift of that moment, take it. Don't, because other people held it against you in the past that you were overwhelmed, don't reject that gift of understanding and empathy in the present. Take people at face value when they're right in front of you now as adults. And this is very difficult if you were tricked or manipulated, especially in your teenage years. I was. I know the feeling. But now it's like, all right, a person said this was okay. I'm going to take them at their word. And if it turns out the word's no good, they don't get a second chance. Right? There are things you can do. And, if you have a man in your life who won't open up, say, hey, would watching a movie help? Would going for a walk help? Move it to action. You'd be surprised that, once you're out for the walk, he may start talking. Once you're doing the activity, he may start talking. I find that sort of as a rule, guys like this, they need about 45 minutes of conversation about something else, and then it'll come in. Oh, that's so much emotional labor. No, it's not. It's watching a movie, going for a walk, or playing a video game. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes they don't need more than that. And if it really is about concern for their feelings and not about validating you as a fucking woman, that's enough. And that's the other thing, guys, that I think is important about this message that I'll leave you with, and we can follow up later if you want. But because women are raised to believe that they give and then people give to them, and that's the way it's supposed to work. And there's so many stories about, oh, that poor thing, she's so taken advantage of. And so many stories of men just lavishing proper, beautiful women, proper feminine women with attention and affection and things and places and travel, and without her even asking. Women to feel feminine. A lot of women need a man to give and give and give and give. Or they feel like they failed as a woman. This is a really, really hard thing to combat. That is the funneling everything through the fucky fuck that men do. in communication, that so many women can't have a straight conversation of, this is what I'm looking for, what are you looking for? No, the man has to do the big romance novel, the big grand gesture, the planning, the attention, the focus, the organizing, right? That is the fucky fuck for women. It's no less or no more authentic or direct. It's a different kind of, this is what society does to us. So if you're a guy who communicates that she's not hot, these women that you think are too picky, guess what? You guys are you're the horseshoe theory right there. It's the exact same insecurity, just manifesting differently. Everybody else, we're sort of getting closer to a common language. But it's very important to understand, are you other-oriented? Are you self-oriented? And doing translation, not catching up, translation for people who are on the other end of that spectrum. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Remember, sign up for Leanna Care session yourself if you want to pack through some stuff that might be bothering you, might be nagging at you, or you just want to talk about video games or other ways of processing. People do that a lot too, and I love doing it. Thanks for watching. Manly Monday.